And we're live. Good evening, Fáilte. Hello, everyone. Fáilte Macarja Golair. Fodon Dow and welcome all my friends from around the world. Igach Auch, Igach Cheer, Igach Kahir. In every place, in every country and land, in every city. Tá Fáilte Road, Cade Mila Fáilte. 100,000 welcomes to Live Irish Myths. And this is episode number 41. Dachid is a hain. Number 41. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the old Irish names and stories and myths pertaining to the Milky Way, that bright band of stars that runs through the sky, our own home galaxy. Hope everybody is well. This is day 41 of the COVID-19 restrictions here in Ireland. A lot of people have passed away, sadly, but Ireland has done particularly well to flatten the curve. And we're hoping, fingers crossed, that what we've done is enough to allow the restrictions to be loosened a little bit on the 5th of May. I'm hoping that at the very least, the 2-kilometre limit is expanded a little bit. That if I can get out to Brunabonia, I can get out there and do live videos out there, and I can capture footage and photographs and everything and keep everybody happy. Anyway, in the meantime, good evening to all and sundry. As usual, thanks a million to Mythical Ireland patrons over at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland for your support of this channel, of these live streams, and of everything that Mythical Ireland is about. If you want to take a look at becoming a patron, I'll post the link in as a comment beneath the live stream here on Facebook and on YouTube. And then I'll get round to saying hello to everybody. And we have a whole load of people already. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Maybe I'm early. At 7:33 p.m, heard a shot. Good evening, Anthony. Looking forward to story time. Some people apparently are sitting on YouTube waiting long before it starts. Good stuff. Theresa McGalloway, Jigwich, early a bit. Theresa McGuinness Galloway from Callahan, Florida. Blessings to all. Banachti, Tossafane, Theresa. Judith Nylan is watching. Hi, friend. Judith here from Washington State. Lovely to have you in the house, Judith, as always. Mary Smith says, hello from Switzerland. Finally made it to another live episode. Jigwich, Mary. Ben McStuffon, Tá an lá ma agat. Yeah, the day was great, and hopefully it'll be a great evening. Welcome along. Jigwich. Troy Bell. Cain Choy a will to. What does that mean? Cain Choy? What's Choy? My Irish isn't just good enough yet, but I am relearning. Christopher Weidner says, hello from Munich. Munich greets the Emerald Isle, and hello to you too. Christopher, you're very welcome. Jack Durkin says hi everyone on Facebook. Nick Eska Casterton, hello Nick. Barbara Barney, Giaglitch. Alex Casterton, good evening. Professor Murphy and Tua. The tribe are here for another story. Henry Paddy Shearman's there in the house. Fáilte, Henry, Fáilte Moore. Josephine Meehan, Gia Reeve, Golair Anshaw. August Gias Muragwich, Josephine. Patricia McAteer is watching and says, hello from Omeath. Hello, Patricia. Happy 41 from Keene, New York, where it's gone from snow to sun. Can't wait for more on the Milky Way, says Yvette Tillema. Good evening, Yvette. Rowan Grove. Hello all from a bright spring day in Colorado. Just hung some laundry out to dry in the sun. Fantastic stuff. Fáilte, Rowan. Adam McCormick. Hello from Belfast, sir. Hello, Adam. Tranonawa. Jules Cousins says, hi, good evening. Lovely to have you along, Jules. Helen Guinan is watching. Everybody down on one knee. Alex Casterton, sorry to hear so many gales have gone. We're at the peak point here in Albion. Praying to the gods it'll die down soon. Absolutely. Josephine Meehan says, greetings to from Donegal. And greetings from Cundaloo. Josephine. Richard O'Neill. Good evening, Anthony and Evan. Tranonawa. Richard, you're very welcome. Helen Guinan says, hello, Anthony Murphy. How are you? And hello to everyone. I am fine, Helen. How are you? I hope you're keeping well. Andrea Lagoya says, ciao. Good evening. Ciao, Bella. Is that how you say ciao back? Aaron Durrett is watching. Hi, Aaron. Lovely to have you along. Jim Conway. Again, Sonny Lurgan. Your broadcasts are an essential service. Thank you, Jim. I'm glad you're enjoying them. Mandy McCurl, hello from the sunny Isle of Mull. It was also sunny here today, breezy still, but less cool than it was yesterday. Don't forget, folks, tonight, after the broadcast is finished, especially if you're in Ireland, if you're in America, you'll have to wait a number of hours. The peak of the Lyrid meteor shower takes place tonight. It's a maximum 20 meteors per hour shower, so don't expect to see tons and tons of them. But you're better off to wait till later on in the night, after midnight, and especially the higher up Vega and Lyra get in the sky, the more meteors you should see. Francis Smith says, hi from Slane on V. Balya Shlanya. Good evening, Francis. Aaron Durrett. Greetings, dear Tua and Professor. And the same to you, Aaron Jigwich. Mariana Dunn says, greetings, MythFlix Tua. Hope everyone is well. Can't speak for everyone, but certainly I'm absolutely fine, Mariana, and I hope you're in good health too. Doris O'Hara, good evening, Anthony and everyone. Hi, Doris. Annie Newton, hi again from Peru. Falcha, Annie, lovely to have you in from Peru. Joan Rankin says, hello from Cape Breton. You're very welcome. That's in Nova Scotia, Joan, isn't it? It's in New Scotland. And so Scotland was named after the Paddies. So we're all Irish. Freya says, Banachty, Anthony and Tua, a very good evening to you. Giagwich, Freya. Kelly Sewell says, hello from rainy Vermont. Oh, it's raining in Vermont. Don't go there right now. Not that you can anyway. Sharon Boggins Stitch says, hello, folks, from a beautiful, sunny Redding in North Carolina. Sorry, Northern California even. Redding. It's red because it's sunny. Nice one. Kristen Tiger Giagwich again from Davis, California to Anthony and the Tua. Giagwich, Gias Muragwich, Kristen. Barbara Kling, hello from Vermont. You're very welcome again. Sean Verlo says, hello from Tacoma in Washington. Falcha, Liz Curry is in Perth in Western Australia. By goodness me, what time of the day is it there, Liz? It has to be like ridiculous o'clock. Is it something like 2:30 in the morning there? All I can say is fair play to you for coming along. It's brilliant to see you. Laura Collier says, good evening from Clogherhead in County Louth. Count Clogher. And it's very nice to have Laura from a place that we've spoken about in a couple of the episodes, and we may get a chance to speak about in a future episode, in fact, for its prominence relating to Newgrange and the geological, the interesting geological facts pertaining to that area. Yerli Mozaga is in Brazil. Falcha, thank you for watching from Brazil. Linda Lowe says, Giagwich from Alberta in Canada. Falcha, Linda. Ralph Waldron, hi from Athleague. Have you ever visited our Latin stone? In Athleague, I don't think so. I did many years ago see the Turo stone, but I think that's been moved into a museum or something now. You must tell us the reason why we're all bowing to Helen one of these days. Yeah, I work with Helen, and it's just this thing myself and some colleagues started doing ages and ages ago. Is she's a very important woman in our company, and we treat her like royalty. And in fact, we started bowing and genuflecting in front of her. So that's why she's very, very. She makes our whole company happen. Without her, the whole thing falls apart. Maeve Fiona Callahan says, greetings, fellow Milky Way travellers. And can I say, Maeve, I've been enjoying your posts on the Mythical Ireland community page. Lovely. Dave Russell says, ciao, good evening, Dave. John McGovern is watching. Falcha, John. And Seth Tigarian says, hello from Florida, where our corona measures are failing. Oh, dear. I'm sorry to hear that. Katrina says, Chui Way, Ken Chuil to Conasata to Cade Marata to. Thank you for the Irish lesson, Katrina. Always very happy to have you along to help us with the Irish words. Adele Perth, who's in Adelaide, says, hello, everyone, with a big smiley face. Good morning, Majinwa. Adele, lovely to have you in the house. Joan Rankin, yes, it is in Nova Scotia, but we capers ignore that part. Jack Durkin says it's 4 a.m. in Perth. Wow. Aaron Eckert says, hello from Gettysburg, Falcha. Liz Curry says, it's 3:07 a.m. Wow. Well, I have to say, hats off. Fantastic stuff. It's wonderful to have viewers in Western Australia where it is ridiculous o'clock. Henry Paddy Shearman says, I'm reading your book, Newgrange, at the moment. It swept me away. Fantastic stuff. Brilliant. I'm very glad to hear that, Henry. Lovely stuff. Vicky Wallace-Southall, got to love the ridiculous o'clock. Catherine Woodruff says, hello from central Wisconsin with a bit of sun before the snow rolls in tonight. Hopefully you don't get too much, unless you want it, of course. Good news, says Katrina. Keep up the isolating, yes. Dave Russell says, another gorgeous day here in Era. Hi, everyone. Looking forward to tonight, Anthony. Trish Delahoyd says, hi from up the road in Drogheda, in Drogheda. Tá fáilte rát, Trish. Okay. Laurie Kurtz says, hello from St. Pete, Florida. Another Floridian in the house. Fáilte. Jackie Stevenson says, hello from Southern California. Giaglitch. Federica Guy from Italy is in the house. Ciao, Federica. And Shannon Winokur. Hi, Anthony. Glad to join you as I'm finishing up at work. Brilliant. Lovely to have you along, Shannon. Fantastic stuff. Gemma McGowan is watching. I guess Gemma got addicted after last night's episode. You see what it's all about now. It's all about bringing all these wonderful, lovely people together and telling a few stories. Hello, my bard, from Monique Peterson. Giaglitch, Monique. Nice to have you along. On YouTube, we better get telling stories, I suppose. On YouTube, Troy Bell, Cain Chuyavel to Tommy Goa. I can answer that now. Giaglitch O'Dura, Column Kill. Peter Brady is in Derry. Hello, Peter. Fáilte. Alan De Silva says Giaglitch. Gias Muraglitch, Alan. Hello from Bulgaria, Sofia. It is very interesting to me to watch something interesting from so far, and that's from Miss Mary 1051. I don't know what your real name is, but you're very welcome along to Live Irish Myths, or as we call it, thanks to Margaret Ring, we call it MythFlix. Paul in Tara says, hello, seem to have fallen off here, so what's the crack? Should the crack's only mighty? Pull up a stool, Paul, there, and have yourself a dram. John Main, looking forward to information on Balach na Bo Blaine. Nice to have you along, John. I wonder what the weather's like in San Francisco today. And Paul says he got the Mead Chronicle. Well, I got the Drogheda Independent, so there you go. Right, let's make a start. Oh, Anne O'Hara says hi from Mount Leinster. You're not on top of Mount Leinster, I presume, somewhere on the side of it. Anne, it's lovely to have you along. Fáilte. Judy McQueen says hello. Susan Bain Williams, gratitude from Illinois. Fáilte. Mary McLean says she's watching from Austin in Texas. Brilliant. And Tiffany Sowards is saying love from South Carolina. Fáilte. August Graw. Brilliant. Right, sure, we can start. So tonight we're talking about the Milky Way. And I know you're going to say, sure, you know, how does the Milky Way enter the Irish language even? And you know, what evidence is there that the Milky Way featured in Irish mythology? And this is a question to which I wouldn't have had. Hang on, till I just make sure to connect the power to the phone so that it doesn't go off. You know, 20 or 21 years ago, when the very naughty Richard Moore, the artist in Drogheda, got me started on this mythology lark. No, it's fantastic. I would have said the same thing, you know. I would have said, having read a lot of myths, there didn't seem to be much at all directly said about the Milky Way. However, a little bit of diligent research over a long period of time has revealed that, in fact, there were several different Irish names or labels for the Milky Way. And then there are several sort of concepts around it in mythology, which I hope you will find it interesting for us to unravel even this evening on our little exploration. So welcome along. Oh, Michelle Abrams says hello from Queensland, Australia. Sorry, I'm a little late. Michelle, you're perfectly on time because we're just about to start talking about the Milky Way because it's taken us 14 minutes to do all the welcomes. You are the third or fourth Australian who's watching at the moment. We have somebody in Perth and we have somebody in Adelaide as well. This is fantastic. Fair play to the Australians, who obviously get out of bed early. Even when they're locked down, they get out of bed early for all the right reasons. It's great to have you in the house. So the first mention of it, in fact, was, and I have to show you this. The first of the old folklore that I got, and the folklore is basically Irish for dictionary. Folklore Béarla agus Gaeilge, and that's by L. McCumma, who was a Jesuit priest, published in 1935. L. McCumma S.J. And I actually got that as a gift from a friend of mine back in, I think, it was the early 2000s. I can't remember exactly what year it was. And I said one day, sure, look, I'll look up the Milky Way and see if there's anything in the dictionary about the Milky Way, not knowing how the Irish might have referred to the Milky Way. And imagine my surprise when I saw that there were several names for it. And I'm not going to give them all because we're going to do that now. But the first of which were Bohar na Bófinne and Bealach na Bófinne. Now, the Bohar na Bófinne is mainly used, according to this dictionary, in Connacht and Munster, and Bealach is common in Connacht and Ulster and Munster. So Bohar na Bófinne means the road of the white cow, and Bealach na Bófinne means the way of the white cow. So the way or the road of the white cow. And this instantly fascinated me because the Boyne River is Abhainn Bófinne, the river of the white cow. And what I might consider to have been sort of the earthly reflection of the Milky Way. And in Island of the Setting Sun, myself and Richard Moore postulated the idea that the cosmology underlying the whole monument complex was that a lot of it related to matters in the heavens, or cycles of the sky. Obviously the sun played a huge part, the solstice at Newgrange and all that, and the solstice at Douth and the equinoxes at Lough Crew, that the prehistoric mound builders had a particular interest in astronomy and the sun and the moon and the planets and the stars. But now, if they were watching the night sky, they couldn't but fail to notice this wonderful, bright, lustrous, luminous, shimmering river of light through the sky. And they may not have been able to immediately see with the naked eye that, in fact, that glowing band, that white band through the sky, is actually made up of thousands and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of individual stars, something that becomes sort of really obvious when you grab a small pair of binoculars or a camera and you zoom in and, you have a look and you see these pinpoints of light. Now, the Milky Way has long inspired ancient cultures and tribes around the world. And there's a whole mythology around the Milky Way that in other studies of sort of prehistoric and early cultures and their relationships to the heavens produce lots and lots and lots of information about that. So there's a section on the galaxy or the Milky Way this is a very famous book, Star Names, Their Lore and Meaning, by Richard Hinckley Allen. And that's an old publication, a reprint of an old publication. I'll tell you when it was originally published. Yeah, it was first published in 1899. And this is a Dover edition, first published in 1963. And so for the galaxy and the Milky Way, there's just tons. There are pages and pages and pages and pages. So I'll just give you an example. Indeed, during all historic time, it had been thought of as the river of heaven. So immediately in the first paragraph, Allen is saying that a lot of cultures saw the Milky Way as a river. Such too was the Akkadian idea of it in connection with that of a great serpent. And I'm thinking of the Mata, of course. Brown writing of this. No doubt the great serpent in one of its mystic phases is connected with the ocean stream. The Norse Midgard Hornsur, I can't pronounce that word. The Weltum spanner, or the stretcher round the world. But the Akkadian Snake River, with whatever else it may be associated, certainly also in one phase, etc., etc. River of the Serpent's Hut. Silver Yoke, or the Yoke River. Oh, lots of stuff. Fascinating. Anyway, we can't delay too long on that because I want to tell you all about the Irish traditions around the Milky Way, the names for it, and to try and tease out some of the astronomy and the cosmology from the stories. Sorry, I've missed a few comments on Facebook. Cy B says, good evening from Limerick, Giaglitch. Nice to have you along, Cy. It used to touch the horizon, says Henry. Yes, we may get a chance to talk about that in relation to the island of the setting sun, writing about it. Lisa O'Hare says, hello from Winchester in England. Hello, Lisa. Fáilte. Giaglitch. Gillian Gogarty is watching. Hello, Gillian. Lovely to have you along. And anyone else who pops in, make sure everybody makes them feel really welcome. Thalia Brown says, hello from Glastonbury, UK. I discovered episode 40 by happy accident. I realised that I will need the next edition of Island of the Setting Sun to complete my earlier book, which is a favourite. Brilliant stuff, Thalia. Fáilte, you're very welcome along. Gemma McGowan says, the crack, the news, the story, the fun, the laugh, the shenanigans may or may not involve divilment. Oh, I think it more than likely will involve divilment. Jackie Hannafy Morrissey saying, hello from Jackie in Brisbane. We have yet another Australian in the house. All the Australians are up before 5 a.m. to watch MythFlix. Isn't this fantastic? Elisabetta Gavetti says, good evening to you all. Ciao, Elisabetta. Hopefully it's not too late. No, we're just really getting started. Liam Smith says, hello, Anthony and co. Fáilte, Liam. Brilliant. My black cat is stretched out beside me listening to Anthony, says Freya. Good stuff. Brilliant, brilliant. Roisin O'Connor Lawrence says hi from Brighton. Giaglitch, Roisin. Okay, I'm going to carry on. Anyway, I'm reading tonight from chapter 7.1, The Milky Way in Irish Mythology and Cosmogony, and that is from Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past, by a certain fellow called Anthony Murphy. You may or may not know who he is. The Milky Way has been known by several names and phrases in Irish mythology and folklore. Principal among its names seems to have been Bealach na Bófinne, which means the way of the white cow. In this respect, it seems to have been regarded as a heavenly reflection of the River Boyne. A variant of this is Bóthar na Bófinne, the road of the white cow. And this is a quote. Oh, sorry, just give me 1 second till I just make sure that I have the references section open so that I can tell you what the footnotes, where the footnotes lead. I know that some of you are very diligent, like myself, about following footnotes and references and finding out where these works are and where we're quoting from. So I will oblige, because I know there are some good scholars, and most of you are brilliant scholars, I'm sure. And this is from Davidson, 1986, and that is the title of that book. I apologize, distraction already. I haven't even read a paragraph, and already we're getting stuck on references. Davidson, 1986 is Norma Davidson, Astronomy and the Imagination, A New Approach to Man's Experience of the Stars, Routledge and Keegan Paul, published in 1986. And here's a quote. Many cultures have connected the Milky Way with the concept of a river or road. The ancient Akkadians called it the River of the Divine Lady. Fantastic stuff. I had a dream last night. And I've just realized that there's something about this that might be significant to it. Remind me about that later, some of you. Anne Murphy is watching! That's my wife. The goddess Boin's name is from Bow and Find, together meaning white cow. In the Dinshanachus, we are told that the Boyne River was formed when Boyne approached Nectan's well and it overflowed, washing her along the river, mutilating her, and finally carrying her out to sea where she was drowned. Now, we've spoken about that in several episodes, not least of which, of course, was the one where we spoke about Boann, which was one, I think, of the earlier episodes. And yet again, I will remind all of the newcomers that all of the previous episodes are available to watch in one place, embedded into the Mythical Ireland blog. And I'm just pasting the link to that on Facebook and on YouTube. so that you can follow that when you're finished. And the episode about Boan, or Boin, if you prefer, was number 16. There we are told her lapdog Dabilla was turned into the Rockabill Islands. This is undoubtedly a creation myth. A feature of some Indo-European cosmogonic mythology is the dismemberment or mutilation of a deity or giant or a monster in legends about origins or the naming of landscape features. In fact, this dismemberment in creation myth features in other parts of the world too. Excuse me, and here is a quote. The shamanistic aspect of the religion of the Stone Age hunter societies presupposes the dismemberment and or sacrifice of a primordial deity. And that is reference number 4, which I will tell you is from Witzel. And that is a fabulous, although not without its controversies, but I'm not getting into that now. We'll talk about that another time. E.J. Michael Witzel's The Origins of the World's Mythologies, a comprehensive study of world mythology running to about 650 pages, and a fabulously scholarly work, and very, very interesting. Other creation myths in which a female deity are ripped apart include the Mesoamerican story of Cotlacu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. If there are any Central Americans watching who can correct me, please do. Who is torn to pieces to form the earth and the sky. And the Babylonian myth of Tiamat, who is dismembered by the god Marduk. In Norse myth, the primordial deity Ymir, Y-M-I-R, again, not sure how to pronounce that, who is male, is killed, and heaven is created from his skull and mountains from his ribs. While the story of Boyne's destructive approach to Nectan's Well has always been considered a myth about how the Boyne River was formed, it could be a creation myth relating equally to the earth and the sky. There is at least one other Irish creation myth relating to the origin of the Milky Way, as we will see. One fascinating possibility, drawn from the studies of world mythology by the aforementioned E.J. Witzel, is that the myth of Bowen and Nectan's Well might have its origins in pre-agricultural Ireland. Consequently, this myth would predate Newgrange and the other great monuments of Brunabonia. Witzel says that the killing and dismemberment of the primordial giant was substituted in Neolithic and later societies by the killing and offering of domesticated animals. And there are that's again from Witzel. There are other Irish names and phrases for the Milky Way, and here is where we diverge now from the original Bealach na Bófinne, and we go and explore some of the other names and concepts. So one was Ceann Síne, C-E-A-N-N-S-I-N-E. Now Síne is a chain, and Ceann is the head or chief, perhaps even an end point. An end point would be interesting with regards to the movements of the sun, moon, and planets along the ecliptic, which intersects the Milky Way at 2 points in the sky. Perhaps one of these points was considered the place where the heavenly cycles began and ended, a background of the stars, so to speak. One of these points, incidentally, which is very, very important to the High Man theory and Island of the Setting Sun, one of these points is between the horns of Taurus and the feet of Gemini, where the Milky Way runs down between the horns of Taurus and the feet of Gemini, above Orion, where Orion actually appears with his upraised arm to be holding the sun and the moon and the planets, giving rise to the idea that Lugh Láfhada, Lugh of the long throw, was in fact Orion seen to have been throwing objects along the ecliptic, and Fionn McCool, the story of Fionn throwing stones from Tara and Slieve Gullion across vast distances of the landscape, might have related to Orion perhaps throwing the moon or sun, and it seen to be rising and setting in conjunction with alignments from these standing stones. That was just the idea that we had. Now, another name for the Irish, for the Milky Way in Irish, is Shiog na Spera, S-I fada O-G, na Spera, S-P-E fada I-R-E, and that means the streak or stripe of the sky. Now, I have no further explanation of that for the moment, but we can get back to it maybe in the future. My Vanway Millward says, hello from Bristol. So excited to hear you talking about Boand and the Milky Way. I crossed the River Boyne last year. It reminded me of the winding river at home in Wales. Fáilte, it's lovely to have you along and delighted to hear that you had such a lovely experience at the Boyne. And Sigrid is telling me Emir is bisexual, male and female. I didn't know that, and thank you for clarifying that. Marlon is saying, Coatli Kwai. Coatliquai. Okay, thank you for the help with the pronunciation. And Aaron says, hello, Anne. Thanks for sharing your wonderful husband. We are all indebted to you. Brilliant. Molly Michelle Kopesky is also watching. I missed the past couple of days, so I'm happy to make it today. And I'm excited to hear about the Milky Way in Irish mythology. Monique Peterson says, why a cow? Monique, can you hold that question and ask it again later when we get to the section about cows and horses? Please, and I'll do my best to explain it to you. Arable na lárach báine. That's E-A-R-B-A-L-L. Na lárach, L-A for or A-C-H. Báine, B-A for the I-N-E, and that means the tail of the white mare, speaking of white horses and white cows. This may explain it to you. Sorry, who was the person who asked that question about why a cow? Sorry, Monique. This may explain it, Monique. If it doesn't, please come back with your question again. The Lár Bháin, or the white mare, is considered by some to be an ancient sovereignty goddess. Interestingly, we had recently an episode about Morrigan's role in the Second Battle of Moytura, and I was reading from the work of Morgan Daimler, the author, who has done a lot of work translating old Irish texts. And Morgan's blog is actually lárbháin.blogspot.com. She is the Lár Bháin. Fascinatingly, Ronald Hicks, our old friend, he of Henges and Ireland Stonehenge, which we will get to in another episode, and he who interpreted the story of Tuchmark Etain in an astronomical light. Ronald Hicks says that in Irish tradition, quote, the moon was referred to as An Lár Bháin, the white mare. This idea is similar in some respects to the idea of the moon as a white cow, bo inne or bo finne. One old Samhain custom in Ireland involved the procession of the Lár Bháin, the white mare, from house to house. People would blow on cows' horns, and the party was headed by a person dressed in a white robe or sheet who was known as the white mare. There is a place in Scotland called Lárach na Báine, which means the place of the white cow. The story associated with this place says that it was the spot where the cow first lay down to rest. And when I hear that in a story, that this is a place where a cow went down to rest, what I'm thinking of, that this is a place where if you're here, you're watching the moon setting, going down to rest. You're watching the moon settling onto the landscape and disappearing into a hill. And that is probably relates to a particular moment in the rotation of the nodes, in the moon's the lunstices, the solstices of the moon, as it were, the standstills of the moon. There is a famous, or rather infamous, account of a bizarre inauguration ritual involving a white mare in which the Canail Conal, a northern sept of the Aeneal dynasty in Donegal, participated. The account was given by a 12th century Welsh scholar, Giraldus Cambrensis, he who has been given lots and lots of mentions in our episodes, whose writings about Ireland have been described as, quote, a hatchet job, unquote. Let's just follow that. Let's follow that. Who said J.P. Mallory, 2016. Would that be either In Search of the Irish Dreamtime or In Search the Origins of the Irish? Hang on till I see which one. J.P. Mallory, 2016. In Search of the Irish Dreamtime: Archaeology and Early Irish Literature, Thames and Hudson. Mallory's a brilliant writer, an archaeologist who also has a sense of humour. He's brilliant. Nonetheless, The ritual has echoes in the Hindu Asvamedha horse sacrifice and is worth recounting in summarized form. The one to be inaugurated embraces a white mare, quote, professing himself to be a beast also, unquote. The mare is killed, chopped into pieces, and boiled in water. A bath is then made from the same water, and the man sits in the bath, surrounded by all his people. Together they eat the meat of the white mare that has been killed. The man drinks from the water of the bloody bath in which he is immersed by dipping his mouth into the water. Quote, when this unrighteous rite has been carried out, his kingship and dominion has been conferred, unquote. And that's from John Waddell, 2015, which I presume is his book about Celtic mythology. And John Waddell is an archaeologist, by the way, and that's something we'll have to talk about, is that his wonderful book. Yeah, Archaeology and Celtic Myth and Exploration, Four Courts Press. Anyway, Liam Smith is asking, have I heard anything about the possible connection between the Boyne and the Nile and the Milky Way and how both rivers have a similar shape? I have seen it suggested. Haven't followed it too far, but I believe there are quite a lot of similarities, yeah. Patrick Rowan says, I'm late. Fault you, Patrick. Fault you, Pat. No problem. And Edina Spark says, coming in late. Don't worry, it's okay. And you can catch up on the earlier part of the video later. The Ardbow mythology, Ardbow, the height of the cow, speaks of a cow emerging from Loch Ness and gives her milk for the mortar for the monastery. Wow, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna keep going because there's a lot to get through. Mór Chuing Aragat. Now this is another name for the I think for the Milky Way. Mór M-O fada or hyphen Chuing Chuing and Aragat Argait. This is a name given for the Boyne in the Dinshanicus, and it means great silver yoke. And again, there's a footnote. I can't go too far without encountering a footnote. And that's from Gwyn. That's from the Metrical Dinshanicus. Gwyn, 1913, page 27, just in case you're looking for the precise footnote. And I shall put a sticky there so that I can follow the rest of the footnotes, which might also have been a description of the Milky Way. Several times in Irish mythology, swans are described as having a silver chain linking them. For instance, in Aislinga Éangaso, which we featured in one of the earlier episodes, the swans have silver chains around them, and even when in human form, the women at the lake are linked in pairs by silver chains. Oh yes, and there is a chapter in Mythical Ireland about Aislinga Éangaso. Another story involving swans, chains, and Newgrange, Sheedinbroga, is the tale from the Toynbo Cuailnge of how Setanta Cuchulainn was born. And again, we did the birth of Cuchulainn in an episode not too long ago, for those of you who are just joining us. We did the birth of Setanta / Cuchulainn 10 episodes ago, number 31. Dectine was driving a chariot with her brother Crohor, who was the king of Ulster. A troublesome flock of birds was eating all the plants and grasses at Owen Plain. So the men of Ulster got their chariots together to chase them away. They chased the birds southwards over Sliabhuat and Breg Plain, or the plain of Brega. There were 9 scores of birds, and this is a quote, there were 9 scores of birds with a silver chain between each couple. Each score went in its own flight, 9 flights altogether, and 2 birds out in front of each flight with a yoke of silver between them. I think I might have taken that from Kinsella. Yeah, Kinsella's translation of the Táin from 1969, page 22. Another name, or possible name, from Irish mythology, Smir Find Féilinthi, Smir Find Fedlimthi, and that translated means the white marrow of Féilimid, Also from the Dinsenachus, specifically the poem about Boan, Boand 1. There are 2 separate poems in the Dinsenachus about Boand, Iver Hain agus Iver Do. So it's from number 1. The idea of the Milky Way representing marrow is a curious and perhaps obscure notion. In the Toynbee Cúilge, we encounter the Shmiramar or Shmirchamarch, a marrow tub. And again, there's a reference. Oh yeah, if you want to look up on the Dictionary of the Irish Language on dil.ie, S-M-I-R-A-M-M-A-I-R, Shmiramar, which is in effect a bath made from marrow and crushed bones used in the treatment of wounded warriors. So here we have 2 sort of similar concepts. We have the destruction or the dismemberment, the ritual slaughter of a white mare, and the chopping up of the horse and the placing it into a bath, and the king or he who would be king has to get into the bath and basically drink the bloodied water and eat some of the bits, and the community joins him apparently in eating some of these bits, and only then can he become king. And here we have a sort of a similar idea, but a little bit different, in that there is a marrow tub, again a bath filled with marrow and crushed bones, which is used to treat the wounded warriors. In particular, there's a warrior called Cethern, C-E-T-H-E-R-N, who is grievously wounded in an episode of Toynbee Cúilge, and who is miraculously revitalized by steeping himself in the Shmiramar, the bath of marrow. There are obvious similarities here with the bath made from the cut up remains and blood from the white mare, in which the king must bathe and eat and drink in order to be confirmed a king. Okay. Hi, August Fáilte. Jim Conway. A.E. Russell picked out the Starry Plough for his banner for the 1913 lockout. Brilliant stuff. Tracy Campbell. Gias Murragich. Tracy Fáilte. Good to have you in the house. Nice to have you along. And the next one is Clí Mór na Royalty. Now that's Clí, C-L-A fada, M-O fada, or na royalty, or E fada, A-L-T-A-I fada. And that basically means the great fence or ditch or dike of the stars. This is, now remember we had the hedge. We had Bridget. I have no idea what happened there. Video paused. We had Bridget and 19 nuns who were guarding the fire, and something about a hedge, didn't we? Yesterday, and yes, in the past, no, or the previous episode 39. And I suggested in that episode that the hedge might be the Milky Way, and that the 19 might relate to the metonic cycle of the moon. Anyway, the great fence or ditch or dike of the stars, Clí Mór na Royalty. This is fascinating, not least because of the possible connections with several Irish creation myths. Of particular interest here are the stories about the Black Pig's Dyke and the dismemberment of the monster called the Mata. A prominent tale abounds in several parts of Ireland about a mysterious black pig which is said to have run through the landscape, following a route often called the Valley of the Black Pig or the Black Pig's Race. And indeed, I think that's been mentioned in at least one episode. A linear earthwork known as the Black Pig's Dyke is found incomplete in 9 different counties, stretching from Sligo in the northwest of Ireland to Armagh in the northeast. And then the following is from a quote from Richard Marsh, which is a book about Meath folktales. The names attached to the earthwork are strange. The Black Pig's Race or Rut or Valley, Glan na Muice Duva or Namuice Dua or Dova, and the Worm Ditch or Dyke. The legends attached to the former name are very grotesque, and their main draft is that a magical pig, originally from Meath, raged westward through Ireland and tore up this deep furrow with his snout. Actually, I can show you what book that's from. That is from Meath Folktales by Richard Marsh, and I gather that a certain number of those tales are from the Folklore Commission archives. Katrina has pasted a link from the Voices from the Dawn website, which is a brilliant website. And there's a very comprehensive page there about the Black Pig's Dyke. But there is a separate project examining the archaeology of the Black Pig's Dyke. And it has lots of the place names and mythology on it as well. Can't remember offhand, but somebody will no doubt provide it. I think Margaret Ring is in the house. Miriam McChira says, Conas atá to Auntie, nice to catch a live on work break. Lovely to have you along, Miriam. Tá fáilte rád. Yeah, Margaret is late. I'll catch up. Don't worry, Margaret, it's okay. It's fine, no problem. Catch up is exactly what to do. So, the folklore attests that when this mystery pig runs again, the end of the world will come, or some great war involving particularly great slaughter for those living in the Valley of the Black Pig, but that the slaughter will end when the pig is killed. And I think that's also from Marsh. No, it's from Campbell et al. 2014, which is The Field Names of County Louth. Oh yeah, fabulous book. The Milky Way is seen as a bright ribbon of countless stars stretching across the sky. It is actually a complete circle, but the entire ring of stars cannot be seen at any one time, at least not in the modern epoch. Running through the Milky Way is a murky band known as the Dark Rift or the Great Rift. Is it possible that the story of the black pig tearing up a furrow across the land is a creation myth, but one pertaining to both sky and ground? In the Toynbo Cuilne, the bull paws up the earth, or perhaps digs a trench. At the conclusion of the Toyn, the white bull Finbenach is torn to pieces, dismembered, by the brown bull Dun Cuilne, and its remains are scattered across Ireland, forming different landscape features. This is reminiscent of the story of Bowen and Nectan's Well, in which the dismemberment of Bowen leads to the formation of the River Boyne, or Milky Way. Don't worry, Margaret. It's good to have you along anyway. Fáilte. Are these two stories different versions of a similar and possibly very ancient creation myth? In one, the destruction of a white bull leads to the creation of new landscape features. In the other, the goddess is the white cow, and her destruction leads to the formation of the Boyne, which we have seen has obvious connections with the Milky Way. The earthwork known as the Black Pig's Dyke is also sometimes referred to as the Worm Ditch or Dyke. We are told that the worm or peist was a dragon, and that's an Irish word, P-E-I-S-T, which I think was related, wasn't it, to beast, was a dragon whose foals left the sinuous track over hill and dale. Some of you will be interested in that. Is also from Richard Marsh, Mead Folk Tales. There was a strange creature in the Irish oral tradition called Oilfeist, O-I-L-L-P-H-E-I-S-T, Oilfeist, a fabulous reptile or dragon-like monster which was said to have cut out the route of the River Shannon. This beast has obvious parallels with another mysterious creature known as the Mata, the monster that was dismembered, torn limb from limb at Brunebogne and tossed piece by piece into the River Boyne, after which his various limbs and bodily portions created new parts of the landscape, including the ford of the River Liffey. And we will have a separate and an interesting, I hope, episode about the killing of the Mata. But before he had been killed by the men of Éireann, the Mata had first, quote, licked up Boyne till it became a valley, unquote, and that's from the Dunshanicus. That's from Gwyn, again, 1913, page 101. Just in case you have the Dunshanicus, all of the Dunshanicus volumes are available on the internet as PDFs. Is it a stretch of the imagination to suggest that the myths about the Valley of the Black Pig, the Ulfeist, and the Mata might be connected with the dark rift of the Milky Way? Certainly, if the Mata licked up the Boyne, this suggests that the river was there in the first instance, and that the monster was responsible for removing its water, as if gouging out the dark rift from the river of the sky. Here again, in the Mata myth, we encounter the theme of dismemberment leading to the creation of something. The monster's ribs, Cliath, hurdle of its frame, i.e. its breast, reach the ford of the Liffey in Dublin, whence Clia is said. So there you go. Dublin gets its name from the ribs of the monster, the Mata, that was killed at Newgrange. Fascinatingly, there is a connection here with the Clí Mór Moralty, the great fence of the stars. In the metrical Dinshanachus version of the tale, there is a mysterious quatrain about a palisade or a fence in the ford. Who was the right that planted the palisade? And this is a quote from the same volume of the Dinshanachus, 1913, page 101. Who was the right that planted the palisade? In its great size, he set it in the ford. What is this palisade, we wonder? It shall abide in the pool till doomsday. The bull pawing up the earth or creating a furrow in the Tyne could also be connected to the Milky Way. The bull of the the bull of the sky, Taurus, is above Orion with its horns immersed in the bright river of the sky. The story of Dun Coilne scattering Finnbenach's remains is unquestionably a creation myth, but can we now also assume that it possibly relates to the Milky Way? There are three stories here which share common themes. The dismemberment of a goddess, the white cow, leads to the formation of the Boyne/Milky Way. The Mata licks up the Boyne/Milky Way, forming the dark rift before being dismembered, and one part of him, his ribs or the frame of his chest, reached the ford in the River Liffey in Dublin, forming a mysterious fence or palisade. And the Finnbenach, the white bull, is torn to pieces, its bits scattered around the place to make new landscape features, including, significantly, two river fords at Athlone, Luan, and Trim, Trim. And I think Athlone is ford of the loins, and Trim is Trim, the ford of the liver. These are the bits of the Finnbenach that were dropped along the way. Even more significant is the relating, in Joseph Dunn's translation of the Táin, the fact that Dun Coilne, quote, sent its, Finnbenach's, ribs, Cliachach, from him to Dublin, which is called Clia. So there is a translation of the Táin which actually says that it was Finnbenach's ribs, the white bull's ribs, that reached Dublin and formed the ford. So here we see the same idea, but being transferred from beast to beast. One saying that it was the white bull of the Táin whose ribs formed the ford of the river in Dublin, and the other saying that it was in fact the Mata, the great monster, slain by the men of Erin, or, if you believe other versions of the story, slain by Dagda at Newgrange at a mysterious stone called Leckben and tossed into the River Boyne. Must take a drink. Throat is getting dry. There's a white theme also. The white cow is dismembered, as is the white mare, the Lor Voin, and the white bull, Finnbenach. So we have three white animals, with the white bull, the white cow, and the white horse. One more possible link to the Dark Rift is presented in the Cop Moitura, the Battle of Moitura, which refers to a large track big enough to be the boundary ditch of a province, which is called the Track of the Dagda's Club. And that's from Linan 2014, which is, I know some of you will want these references, and I am happy to oblige you with them. Linan et al. It's not et al. Dr. Mary Linan, Leeanane, 2014, The Written and Oral Landscape of the Black Pig's Dyke. And that's from the Black Pig's Dyke Regional Project Report, Volume 1 of 2. And I think that's downloadable from the internet if you're interested in following that up. Anyway, the Track of the Dagda's Club. This is, we are told, created when the Dagda, the chief of the Tuatha Dé Danann and original owner of Newgrange, drags his giant club along the ground. And then two more old names for the Milky Way. Slaura Lu, SlabhraLugh, and that means Lu's chain. One of the chief Tuatha Dé Danann deities who we met in several episodes. We met in episode 2? Lu and the coming of the sun god Lu in episode 2. And of course we discussed him at length in the episodes pertaining to Cath Moitura, the Battle of Moitura. Lu Laufada, Lu of the Long Arm, is said to have worn the Milky Way around his neck. And this is a quote from Michael Slavin in 1996. I presume that's the Book of Tara. Hang on a second, let me just double check that I am not mistaken about that. Have a look in the bibliography. Michael Slavin, 1996, the Book of Tara, Wolfhound Press. Slaura Lu. It was claimed of Lu, the Superman of these wonder tales, that on a morning when he stood on the rampart at Tara, people thought the sun had risen in the west. So bright did his countenance shine. The Milky Way he wore as a silver chain around his neck. And that, of course, sorry, I won't, because I'm preempting what it says next. This description of Lu, with his long arm and an ability to hurl a weapon over a long distance, suggests an underlying cosmological aspect as the constellation we know today as Orion. It is this image of a huge godlike figure casting weapons from his powerful arm which brings to mind the constellation Orion, which in one form could be seen as a giant warrior with his upraised arm appearing to throw, in quotes, throw the sun and moon and planets along the zodiac. And that's from Island of the Setting Sun. Well, second edition, to page 238. I think that's in the first edition too. And the last, but not the least, of the old Irish names for the Milky Way, Sgriab Chlan Uisneach, Sgriab Chlannuisnech, and that means the track of the children of Uisneach, or the track of the family of Uisneach. This last one is contained in a beautiful folk memory, recalled in Scotland and in Nova Scotia. Speaking of Joan, hello Joan, but relating to an Irish myth, Deirdre and the Sons of Uisneach, which, by the way, we will be reading over the course of several episodes in the next week or two, which appears to be the recounting of an ancient creation myth about the Milky Way. In this story, the Milky Way is known as Sgriab Chlan Uisneach. In Uist, the Milky Way was known as Shlia Chlan Uisne, the way of the Clan Uisne, or Sgriab Chlan Uisne, which is just a slightly different version. Slighe in the first case, which is way, or Sliav, declivity of the Clan Uisne. And here is a quote from, this is actually from our friend MacKillop. Sliav Chlan Uisne non cursor giala is coina bios na glus na hala, declivity of the Clan Uisne of the white coursers of fairer carriage than the graceful swan. It is not surprising to see the Milky Way described in conjunction with the swan. The constellation we know today as Cygnus may have been important to Stone Age astronomers, and it appears to fly along the heavenly river. And note in that regard, 2 nights ago we spoke about the Cygnus mystery and Andrew Collins, and he says quite a lot about that. In the Nova Scotia version of Deirdre and the Sons of Uisneach, quote, the origin of the Milky Way galaxy is depicted as emerging from 2 trees separated by a loch, as if to complete an arch between them, unquote. And that is from, MacKillop. Now, that's not from MacKillop, the dictionary of Oxford, the Oxford Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. It's from another of his books, which is equally brilliant, which I'll tell you the name of now as soon as I find it. It's from Myths and Legends of the Celts, published in 2006 by Penguin Books. This episode is placed in the well-known Ulster tale of Deirdre, whose lover Naoise is one of the children of Uisneach. And this finishes with a quote, which again is from McKillop. The sons of Uisneach are killed in a great unnamed battle, after which Deirdre falls into the grave with the men. The bodies of the two lovers are exhumed and reburied on either side of the burial mound, that is Deirdre and Naoise. Soon a tree grows from each grave and rises until the two join. This arouses a great deal of vengeful malice in an unnamed king, who orders that the trees be cut down. Soon another pair of trees grows and joins until the king has them cut down as well. This sequence of events recurs repeatedly until the king decides to have the bodies placed on either side of a loch, a distance too great for the trees to span. Between the trees, a cluster of stars gathers in a light trail, Scríb Clon Uisneach, the track of the children of Uisneach. And that's where that chapter ends. But I should also tell you that in a slightly alternative version of that, what happens is that the trees grow over the loch and that their branches entwine, right, over the loch. And that this is specifically given as a creation myth for the Milky Way. And what it in fact envisages is the two separate streams of the Milky Way, separated by the dark rift, meeting and joining in the sky at Cygnus, as it happens, in the Cygnus area. And it continues there with, I think the dark rift is much less noticeable beyond that. So the idea of the twining branches, if you've ever heard of that, the idea of the twining branches is a creation myth of the Milky Way. Now, there's more about the Milky Way in Island of the Setting Sun, but I think we may leave that to another episode because it is 9 o'clock and I do want to catch up on comments and I do want to take questions if there are any. Hopefully you've found that very interesting. Just having a squiz through the comments on YouTube. BV Armstrong, horse meat bubble bath now available at Lush, Dublin. I don't believe it. All this dismemberment thing also reminded me of Meach's body and the herbs, says Alan De Silva. And Meach, of course, was the son of Dian Cecht, who Dian Cecht actually killed because he dared to try and heal Nuadu's arm. A strange one. Yeah, interesting. Never pay attention to monsters, says D. Lynn. But in another comment says, gotta love trees. Yeah. Now I'm just going to scroll back a little bit just to see what I have or haven't missed. Hopefully it's just you all chatting with each other. Balk, ha, ribs of a monster. The Dubs may object to their town being bull, says Katrina. Yes, indeed. Brittany says, so wild. This is relevant to the starry bull tradition. Peist equals worm. Ulfest equals monster, says Katrina. Okay, thanks for that. Maeve says, I much prefer the stories of drinking mead and bedding with the goddess as kingship initiation. Some of the stuff that went on was quite weird. I'm sure if we went back in time and we could witness some of it, we would probably think, my God, get me back to my own time quickly. White bulls, always the sacrifice of Greek royalty, says Erin Durrett. Margaret is saying detention for us. I don't think so. Don't worry. Dive. D-U-I-B-H-E. Dive. Thank you for that, Katrina, for the pronunciation assistance. Anyway, Lisa Smith, I find it fascinating that the cow and bull are sacred in many cultures. Sorry, Liam Smith, and myths around the world. I wonder, does this hark back to a previous global civilization? Well, odd thing is that you think something is uniquely sort of Irish, and then you find that there's something similar in classical mythology, or there's something similar in Norse mythology. And even weirder again, you get all these myths like the dismemberment myth, like the myth of Noah's Ark, which are found literally all around the world. Fascinating. Aaron, Anthony, reminding you about your dream. Thank you. Yes, I need to just write something down before I forget it. I'm going to write it on that. Always have Post-its on your desk. Always. I don't actually want to tell you what the dream was about. Not at the moment. I may do. I may do in the future. But I think it was a significant dream. I just need to let it sort of percolate, and see if a meaning emerges. But a meaning immediately emerged tonight at the beginning of the episode when I read something, and I just went, "Oh yeah, that may be what the dream is about." Post-its, yes. My desk is covered in Post-its, with all sorts of messages on them. For instance, episode number 20. Thanks to John Main, new patron. Thanks to Stefan Keller for the crow image, and I was to mention Morgan Daimler as well. So there you go. There's places full of them. I'm not the tidiest worker in the world, but I get a lot done at the same time. Thanks for the reminder, Aaron. Michael Naylor says, hello, Anthony. Sorry I missed you. Crazy weather in New Jersey. Catch up on YouTube. No problem, Mike. And say hello to Jeanette for us. And I hope the weather in Princeton isn't too bad and that it improves soon. Liz Curry, what was your dream you mentioned earlier? I won't say just at the moment. I just need time to assimilate the dream and its possible meanings. But I believe that there's been a sort of a dramatic coincidence between the dream happened just shortly before 8 a.m. this morning. I know this because I had woken earlier about 6:30, and I was having trouble getting back to sleep. And then I did get back to sleep, and I had this dream, and I woke up from this dream, and I checked the time, and it was thinking that I was after sleeping in for work, which starts at 9 o'clock. I could see that it was only a few minutes to 8. But it's just interesting now tonight that the subject that we're talking about pertains immediately to the dream, in fact. So I'm going to have to think about more about it. Will you be giving an episode on the mythology of the May? You mean Bealtaine? I'm doing a Bealtaine episode soon, Jim. I was kind of hoping, I was kind of hanging on to open the subjects, the list of suggested subjects in case we get some. I'm not sure if that's specifically what you're talking about. I will be doing an episode about Bealtaine. We may actually be able to do more than one episode about Bealtaine because there's quite a lot of material around Bealtaine. But certainly, as we approach the date, I'm not sure exactly what date it is this year. It's generally the 4th or 5th of May, isn't it? But our restrictions, our lockdown restrictions are due to be revisited around that time. I'm hoping they're going to be relaxed so I can start getting out to Newgrange more and the monuments and the Hill of Tara and the Hill of Slane and do some live episodes from up there. But I'll let you know anyway, closer to the date, when we intend to do it. Monique, I got pulled away by a couple of times by work. No, don't worry, Monique. You can catch up on the video, but it was relevant. Don't worry, I brought it back into the conversation. On Creoch, Katrina says, after the sons of Ishnok fell in battle, Deirdre threw herself into their grave. Angered, King Crohor MacNessa exhumed the bodies and buried. It was Crohor, and buried them separately. But a tree grew from each grave, and the branches entwined. Oh yeah, of course it was. Again, he had them dug up and buried on opposite sides of a lake. Sorry, that paused again. But when the great cluster of stars appeared across the sky, connecting the two graves, similar to the Tanabata Star Festival in Japan, Altair and Vega are separated. Very interesting stuff. Deirdre was the one that, because we're going to feature Deirdre in. It'll probably take several episodes to tell that story. But Crohor fell in love with her when she was only young, and he basically wanted to keep her captive until she was old enough to marry him. But in the meantime, she fell in love with Nisha, one of the warriors. So there you go. The swans flew up the canal today in Mullingar. It's amazing to experience it. Yeah. I was. Were you there, Margaret? Of course. Yeah, you were watching the live I did from Highfield and Drogheda there last week. And just at the end of the video, when I was about to finish, the two swans came flying along over the river. It was lovely. Okay, right. I think that's it, is it? Is that it in terms of questions? Michael Murphy says, hi, Anthony. Giogich, Michael, how are you? We're just finishing up, so hopefully you'll get to watch the episode shortly on video. I know it tends to be available on Facebook very quickly. It takes a few minutes to get it ready for YouTube. Dreams give you the answers your conscious mind is too busy to get, says Desiree. Too true, Desiree. I'm a big fan of C.G. Young, by the way. Mullingar Abu. I missed the canal. Of course, Katrina has links to Mullingar. Miriam Makchira says, I've been having intense dreams ever since the pink moon. Don't forget to write them down, Miriam, because they may not make sense to you now, but they may make sense to you in the future. How does the Milky Way stay in its relationship to Taurus and Gemini? How long? Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a fixed thing. Well, I know all the stars are moving. They're not moving at all. It's actually the Earth that's rotating. The Milky Way runs down between Taurus and Gemini, and that is a fixed thing. What's not fixed is the sun's position between them, which currently is at summer solstice. So at summer solstice, Orion holds the sun. And on summer solstice, if we get the chance, we'll do an episode about that. So the position of the sun at its zenith of the year is gradually moving due to precession of the equinoxes. And it takes nearly 26,000 years to do a full ring of the zodiac. But the Milky Way's position in relationship to Taurus and Gemini is constantly fixed. Brendan Kinch says, snippets from internet tonight make me think that creation myths can not only be linked to the stars, but I can't get it out of my head that the dismemberment might also refer to the retreat of ice areas, monsters. Interesting question, Brendan, and you're not the first one to think that, and it's a fabulous thought. The prehistory of Ireland, pieced together from archaeological evidence, begins with the first evidence of humans in Ireland around 10,500 BC. The last ice age fully came to an end in Ireland about 8,000 BC. And I've thought that about Mata. Was Mata a memory of the glaciers? Well, it was. I mean, the Boyne Valley was formed by glaciers, and it's melting away, you know. And in one version, it is the Dagda who defeats Mata, and the Dagda makes the sea that has covered the plain Moorhevna drain away because the Dagda is the sun. Neil says, hi, Anthony. Sorry I couldn't make it this evening. Little one doesn't want to go to bed. Why don't you just put her down, sitting in front of the phone, he or she, and I'll put her to sleep after a few minutes. You know, you adults are okay, but the children will be looking, going, what's he talking? I'll catch it later tonight. Have a very good evening. Ichawa, Neil, and thanks for saying hello anyway. I love the images of the branches of the trees intertwining, used as a symbol of creation myth of the Milky Way. So do I, Federica. I think it's beautifully poetic. Maeve says, Anthony, I think in this strange time, there is much surfacing from the dream realms for many, many people. Indeed. All I could say to you is do what I do and keep a dream journal. Write it all down if you can. Even if you can only remember snatches of it, just write them down as quickly or make some record of them. And one of my dreams, which of course I read to you about, was my meeting with the Cailleach. And I made a very careful note of that dream the next day, and those notes formed the basis of the chapter of Mythical Ireland called Kissing the Cailleach, the sovereignty dream of Ireland. So there you go. These things are valuable to us because, as someone has pointed out, in your dreams are situated answers to many of your life's puzzles. Josephine Meehan says, thanks, Anthony. Enjoyed this. Good night, all. Ichawa, Josephine, thank you for joining us. I refuse to use the word primitive. I prefer primal. I'm with you, Henry. It's a bit like I don't use the word pagan to describe pre-Christian. And I generally don't like the word hag for Cailleach. I don't like it all that much. What's the other one? I don't use the word Celtic in my work too much either because it's too wishy-washy. Means too many things to too many people. Post-its, a failed glue formula. Failure can be turned to success. This is Katrina. Okay, there we go, folks. Thanks for joining us. Well, Michael says, I hardly ever remember dreams, but the thing to do is, and it is a discipline, is to try and note it down as early as possible. And sometimes that's first thing in the morning and you're tired and you're bleary-eyed and you can't see straight and you want coffee or tea and you want to go and brush your teeth and wash your hair or have a shave or whatever, you have your shower, you know? And the last thing in your mind is sitting down to write. But just if you just take brief notes about it, you know? Anyway, there were a lot of commentary between you guys, which is wonderful to see. The whole loads of discussions going on. Yeah, it looks like there's bad reception in places tonight as well. Not to worry. Anyway, just in case, the Facebook version is stodgy later. Don't forget to watch the YouTube version. We'll be back tomorrow evening. Remember, tomorrow is my very busiest day at work. I'm going to have to find something easy to read, i.e. something that doesn't involve me making any preparation. I might start reading. Okay, I'll put up the choices. The choices would be, I'm going to either start reading Deirdre and the Sons of Ishnok, or I'm going to start reading The Destruction of Dardurga's Hostel, both of which were suggested as episodes. So I'll let you choose, and maybe later I'll put up a little poll asking you which would be your preference. And I'll let you two choose. In the meantime, as Aaron says, dream of the stars, dear Tua. Stay safe and stay well. Keep washing your hands. Keep your social distancing up. Don't let your guard down now. We've saved so many lives by being good. Let's keep it up. And let's see if we can all hook up again tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Ikawa Tua, says Peter Brady. Alan De Silva, the Durgas Hostel sounds welcome. Cows also sacred in South Sudan, says John Main. Anthony Murphy for Olive 2020. Oh, look. All I can say is thanks for joining us. Deirdre, please, says Lisa. I think this one's going to be interesting. Deirdre, you know, 3 votes for Deirdre, one after the other there. Okay, we'll put the poll up on... I'm not sure if I can put polls up on the page, on the Mythical Ireland page. I can put a poll up on the Mythical Ireland community or vice versa. I can only do it on one or the other. So if you're on the Mythical Ireland page watching this on Facebook, don't forget there's also a Mythical Ireland community. And the difference between the two is you can't post to the Mythical Ireland page, only I can. But in the community, everybody can post to the page. So maybe sign up to the Mythical Ireland community as well. And we'll put the poll up later on. So it'll be a choice between Deirdre and the Sons of Ishnok or The Destruction of Dardurga's Hostel. Both of those are lengthy tales and will require 2 or 3 episodes each to tell. Katrina says, do you have Twitter? I do indeed. If you're talking to me, I am at Mythical Ireland. So twitter.com/Mythical Ireland. Another for Deirdre. It looks like all the women are voting for Deirdre. Maybe some of the men might want to have a say. Anyway, look, it'll be what it'll be, and I'll be glad to read to you one way or the other. It's been lovely having you along this evening. A bit of a long episode tonight, but an enjoyable one nonetheless, I hope you thought. In the meantime, a safe night. Col Sov, Ikawa, agus Slán go fóil. It's Misha Anton. See you tomorrow night. And YouTubers, to you also, Col Sov, Ikawa, agus Slán go fóil.